Hi everybody. Like Paul, I've reached the age where my drag needs to include a pair of glasses in order to see my notes. That's me on the right, in case you can't actually tell the difference. I'm going to give a little history with pictures, basically. Pauline Hanson rocketed to fame and into Parliament in 1996 with her racist views about Aboriginal and Asian people. She was wrapped in the flag, and she was wrapped in a sort of a media-friendly cocoon of down-home Aussie xenophobia. The next year, 1 in 4 Queenslanders voted for her in a state election. I became Pauline Pantsdown, her evil twin. In that pre-internet time, I wanted access to the same sort of privileged mainstream media that she existed inside, so that I could rip apart her politics on her own turf. So I'd become like a simulacrum of her media persona, dress like her, sort of act like her as much as I could. So I started recording her. To prepare, I spent hundreds of hours splicing her voice recordings. And reversing her racism didn't seem to be funny at all. It was just all too serious. But making her into a heterophobic gay activist seemed to work with her words, using her same style of argument. So I came up with a song called I'm a Backdoor Man for the Ku Klux Klan. The song was the #1 request for 10 days on 2JJJ in 1997. But Pauline Hanson got the song banned before I could ever release it, so I retreated and spent a year planning a bigger project. In August 1998, I released my independent single, I Don't Like It. I released it late on a Friday afternoon and had it delivered to all the radio stations on the weekend with the idea that by Monday, when Pauline Hanson could get to her lawyers, the airplay was already too widespread for her to take legal action against a single entity. Structurally, the song was aimed at both kids and adults, sort of like the Wiggles with a political slant. There was lyrics with politics for the adults, please explain, why can't my blood be coloured white? And then simple rhyming ridicule for the kids to sing at the end of year concerts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, racist rubbish, racist hate. I'd also timed the release of the single around the federal election, which was announced 2 days after the single's release. The song hit the charts. I legally changed my name to Pauline Pantsdown and launched a campaign for a New South Wales federal Senate seat. I knew I had a maximum of 6 weeks of celebrity status to manipulate. Pauline Hanson's task for the election was to become more real, to create credible policies, while simultaneously trying to maintain her I'm not a politician image. But my task was to deconstruct and expose the artificiality of her populist image, also by pretending to be real, sort of like the people's Pauline, I used to say, with a smile, working the media with sound grabs that were really just as stupid as hers. And by a pure coincidence, I found a shop where she had bought her clothes, and I stocked up on all the same brands. With the song now a top 10 hit, Pauline Hanson's own voice was blocked out. I was all over entertainment and news TV for 6 weeks, and the CD shops would blast out the song while she visited shopping centres and tried to speak to people. But in the last weeks of the campaign, I wanted to merge the Paulines to sort of make us indistinguishable, a bit of a double act, or, like 2 for the price of 1. So I began to chase her around the campaign stops, and I wanted to get it this time into the same photo frames as her. So here I am with what turned out to be her secret lover, actually, who was her political, at that stage we knew him as her political Svengali, David Oldfield, and he's trying to prevent me going inside the bowling club to see Pauline. And when Pauline Hanson finally came outside, you can see her on the left there with her fixed smile on, and her federal policeman in the foreground sort of wedged me between himself and no-neck cigarette man, who then sort of blocked me from Pauline and then kneed my videographer in the thigh as Pauline passed. Another beautiful shot there. It reminds me a bit of that Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, sort of at the back, ready to do something. I was invited to the AFL Grand Final breakfast in Melbourne, which traditionally all the politicians go to, and they'd asked me instead of Pauline Hanson. So at the, it's a bit dark there, unfortunately. If you guys could bump up the brightness a bit, it'd be wonderful. At the Crown Casino, I made sure I was photographed shaking hands with all the politicians because I was replacing Pauline, such as opposition leader Kim Beazley there there. I approached John Howard because I wanted to have a chat to him about his 1984 anti-Asian statements, and he was always trying to disassociate himself from Pauline Hanson because people would then bring up his own racist statements. And so I thought I could fill in for Pauline in that way as well. So I approached John Howard on the stage, and at the back of the hall my boyfriend Cedric was filming, and then just as I reached John Howard, two of the federal policemen grabbed Cedric and turned him to the side and waited until I'd passed John Howard and then let him go again and walked away. So he obviously didn't want the Pauline and John shot. I flew to Brisbane to attend the Supreme Court, where we were trying to appeal the ban on Backdoor Man, my other song, because we wanted to get a second hit on the radio for the last week of the campaign before the election. On the plane, I had to do my makeup for the very first time, and it was a very turbulent flight, and so that resulted in this absolutely beautiful makeup job there. Unfortunately, the court ruled that the song should stay banned, but if you have a look at SoundCloud, you'll find it. Pauline Hanson gave a 1-minute press conference and then left in a car seconds before my taxi pulled up. I jumped out and gave a press conference in exactly the same spot. I was asked if I regretted causing her pain, and my reply was, I regret that Mrs. Hanson has caused a rising tide of violence against Asian people in this country. I regret that Mrs. Hanson has caused unimaginable pain to Aboriginal people who may have thought they were closer to finding some sense of justice in this country. Ultimately, my song is trivial. It's not quite the press conference they expected from the drag queen, but there you go. Neither of us were unfortunately elected to Parliament on the following weekend. It was either going to be both Paulines or neither. Cameron Thompson, who defeated her in his local seat, he said, we concentrated on doing something for the local people, while Hanson just seemed to be battling Pauline Pantsdown and running a 3-ring circus with the media. 15 years later, ... just do that quick movie music where you jump forward in time, I was asked to appear in a one-hit wonder segment last year on the morning show. And in the final seconds of the song, I ripped off my blouse to expose this beautiful t-shirt that you'll see in the next shot. Abbott is inside me. Which I think is probably my first and last appearance on breakfast television. But doing it again gave me a sense perhaps that there was something I could still do with the character. In June this year, Pauline Hanson emerged from the grave at the same time as The Walking Dead new season started to run for the Senate. She started a Facebook page and she hired the nation's best preference dealer to help her, and I thought that was a bit alarming. This is a guy who knows how to get people elected. So I reactivated Pauline Pantsdown on Facebook, and I quickly built a large following using a childish game of one-upmanship with pictures like this saying, please help me keep ahead of Pauline Hanson in friend numbers. So we built it up very quickly. I began to spread information, actual information about the minor parties who had preferenced Pauline Hanson high on their tickets, including some parties on the left, like the Animal Justice Party. My studies of the Senate preferencing system, it turned into something of an education campaign. So I'd be sort of giving out people information before the election, but also interspersed with some childish sort of jokes along the way. Also, a little bit of direct action, including getting my followers to block up her campaign manager's mobile phone during her campaign stops. Because he'd put his number on the internet, so I thought, well, let's all call him and ask him where Pauline is at any given moment. As her Senate hopes began to diminish, because it turned out the preference dealer she had was helping everybody else as well, I shifted my attention to the main act, Mr. Tony Abbott, and I've gone a bit over time, so I'm just going to flick through a few of those pictures to show you, which some of them got a bit of a strong viral presence. I was really trying to give out messages through images this time rather than sound. And so we just jumped to the first one of those. It's also dark. Okay, jump to the next one. This is Abbott in Wonderland. It's a bit hard. That's Julie Bishop and Christopher Pine up the back. And next one. This is the real government. The real government. You can see who's really running the country there. Next shot. That's a household pet that we had to put down, unfortunately. And next one. It's a Pimp Daddy with his daughters, putting himself in the last week of the election. Next one. It's just my envisaging Tony Abbott on the world stage. It seems to have turned out pretty much like this, doesn't it? And jump again. I was trying to capture a bit of that masculinity that they were giving Abbott during the campaign. I try and bring it a bit into myself. And next one. And then the last one. Yeah. I think that, ultimately my aim with these images and character and music and stuff over the last 15 years has been that with me, I get angry about things, and I find that with me, if I can channel it somehow into humour to make a point about social injustice, that I can put it in a place where hopefully other people can also use that humour to sometimes see issues more clearly and take their own actions, to improve the lot of what can be a very strange and troubled country sometimes. Look, thanks very much for your time. Catch you later.